Hey everyone, welcome back to Soul Sessions with me, Emma. If you're new here, this is a space for honest conversations about life, growth, connection, and what it means to be human. Now, today feels like a really special episode for me, not because I have a guest and not because I have some groundbreaking wisdom to share, but because this is the 30th episode of Soul Sessions. Now, I'm really proud of this because most people don't make it past 3 episodes. So the fact that I made it here in itself is amazing for me personally. This was 30 opportunities to talk about important topics, times to sit down with people and hear their stories and share the journeys that they were on. And as I reflected on what I wanted to talk about today, I found myself thinking about an old Irish legend, a story that many of us grew up hearing, the story of Oisín and Tír. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that perhaps this Celtic story, this ancient legend, has been quietly following me throughout my life. Because I don't think it's really a story about magic. It's a story about belonging. And if I'm honest, belonging is something I've spent much of my life searching for. For anyone who doesn't know the story of Tír, it starts with Oisín, who is the son of Fionn McCool. He was a renowned poet, a warrior, and a member of the Fianna. And one day, as he was hunting with the Fianna, he saw a beautiful woman riding towards him on a white horse. She was Niamh, Cin Or, meaning Niamh of the golden hair. Niamh was a figure of beauty and mystery, and she had come from Tír, the land of eternal youth, a magical realm where no one aged or grew ill. And Niamh heard of this man, Oisín. She heard of his bravery and his poetry, and she had fallen in love with him from afar. So she invited Oisín to come with her back to the land of Tír, where they could live together in eternal bliss. Of course he goes. Why wouldn't he? Who among us wouldn't be tempted by the promise of a better life, a more exciting life, a more beautiful life, a life where everything you've ever wanted seems to exist just beyond the horizon? And for the most part, Oisín was really happy there living his life with Niamh in Tír. But eventually something began to stir inside him, a type of longing, a homesickness, and a pull towards the place he came from, Ireland, towards familiarity, towards belonging. Eventually Oisín expresses his longing to Niamh and tells her that he wants to go across to Ireland for a short visit to see his father and the Fianna. Niamh was saddened by this, but she agreed to let him go with one important condition. Oisín must never dismount from his horse and touch the ground of Ireland, because if he did, the magical spell of Tír would be broken and he would immediately return to his true age. So Oisín hops on his horse and heads across to Ireland. And when he arrives, he realizes that everything has changed. It's been hundreds of years since he was there, and the people he loved naturally are gone, and the Ireland he remembered no longer exists. The home he spent years longing for was only a memory. And in that moment, Oisín discovers something heartbreaking. You can never truly go back. I think with this legend, it made me reflect on the fact that the older I get, the more I think we all have our own version of Tír. For some people, it's the dream relationship. For others, it's this dream career and the dream house or the dream body or a dream version of ourselves. And it's that feeling that life would finally make sense if only we could get there. And I think social media has amplified that feeling. Every day we're shown other people's Tír na nÓg, their highlights, their successes, their beautiful relationships, their holidays, their gorgeous bodies, their achievements. And without even realizing it, I think we begin to believe that everyone else has found something that we're still searching for, that happiness exists somewhere else, and that fulfillment is waiting just around the corner, and that everyone else has figured something out that we somehow missed. Now, if I'm honest again, I've spent a lot of my life looking over the horizon, like Oisín did. I've lived in different countries. I've started over more times than I can count. And I packed up my life in a suitcase and said goodbye to the people I loved, built new friendships, started new jobs, and created new versions of myself. And every time there was a part of me that believed that maybe this next chapter would be it. Maybe this would finally feel like home. Maybe this would be the place. This would be the place where everything clicked into place. And this would finally be a place where I belonged. But I was wrong. Now, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't change those experiences. They've shaped me. They've taught me things I don't think without them I would be the same person today. And they've given me memories and friendships I'll treasure forever. But what I've come to realize is that no place ever gave me what I was actually searching for. Because what I was searching for wasn't a place. Over the last 30 episodes of this podcast, I've had the privilege of speaking to people from all walks of life. People who've built businesses, people who have overcome enormous challenges, who've rebuilt their lives after heartbreak, and people who've even faced illnesses, loss, fear, self-doubt. And what strikes me the most is that underneath so many of our stories is the very same question: where do I belong? Not always in those exact words, of course, but it's there. It's asking, am I enough? Am I doing okay? Do I matter? Is there a place for me here? And perhaps that's what has surprised me the most, is that people I thought had life all figured out often felt just as uncertain as the rest of us. The people who seemed the most confident still had fears, and the people who looked successful still questioned themselves. Because what I've understood is that being human is messy, and none of us can escape that. These days, I'm beginning to think differently about belonging. I used to think belonging was something I would find in a place, in a relationship, in a community, a career, something, I guess, outside of myself. And now I wonder if belonging begins much closer than that. And maybe belonging begins when we stop abandoning ourselves, when we stop comparing our lives to everybody else's, and we stop trying to become who we think we should be, and instead allow ourselves to be who we are. Maybe belonging isn't finding the perfect place, because learning to feel at home with ourselves is the lesson. And perhaps that's what Oisín's story has been trying to teach us all along. Not that Tír na nÓg wasn't real, but that the thing we long for is rarely what we think it is. Because the perfect life doesn't exist. The perfect place doesn't exist. And even if it did, we will still carry ourselves there. Our hopes, our fears, our doubts, and our longing. And as I sit here recording this 30th episode of Soul Sessions with Emma, I can honestly tell you that I don't have life figured out. There are still things I'm searching for, still dreams I hope come true, still days where I wonder, oh my God, like what's next? But I think that's okay, because life isn't something to solve, it's something to live. And if these 30 conversations have taught me anything, it's this. The people who inspire me most aren't the ones who have everything figured out. They're the ones who keep showing up, who keep going, who keep choosing courage despite uncertainty. And they keep opening their hearts after disappointment, who keep believing there is meaning in the journey. So if you're listening today and you feel like you're still searching for your people, for love, for purpose, maybe the answer isn't somewhere else. Maybe it isn't waiting in another country, another relationship, another job, another version of yourself. Maybe the journey isn't about finding a perfect Tír and Nóg. Maybe it's about coming back to here, back to yourself, again and again. And perhaps that's the greatest adventure of all. Thank you for being part of these 30 episodes. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing this journey with me. Until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other.